Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of After the Snuff, your weekly DCP breakdown, rundown, exit interview, and recap of everything that's going on Corkscrew Cove. I'm your host, John Millsip, and today I am joined by both our last pre-juror and our Mayor of Ponderosa, our first juror. I'm joined by Tommy and Benji. Gentlemen, fantastic to have you. I hate having to talk to both of you this early.
Yeah.
Tommy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, John. I just got back from my aunt's house from eating lunch, so that was fun. I'm ready to talk some Corkscrew Crew.
Excellent. And Benji, how are you doing today?
Doing excellent. It's been a good day. It's been really interesting watching the season back and kind of seeing how everything kind of outside of my view has been playing out. And I've really enjoyed it so far.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into it because that is one of the beautiful things about DCP is after you get to play, you do get to see everything play back. Tommy, this was your first game, right?
My first game that got posted on YouTube. That was something I misunderstood in the application. I have been playing orgs since I was like 13.
Okay, so you're very experienced in orgs.
Oh yeah.
How did this one stack up, and how is the ability of watching it play back feel different from other orgs you've played?
I'll say this is probably the best one I ever played.
Oh, thank
Like
you.
production
We like
wise,
that.
this is definitely the best one I ever played. Watching it back really just like cemented everything in my brain. Like I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Why this happened and this happened, and it really helps you like after the show. Like in my case, not knowing that I was on the bottom the entire time, that was crazy to find out, and to find out that like everything is crazy.
All right. Well, we get to dive into that for sure this episode. But Benji, you're an alumni on this season. We have had the pleasure of having you on Trinity Falls, and here you are back again. How's the long game stack up to the mini format?
I thought it was really fun. So Trinity Falls was the very first like online game I ever played. And so I was kind of trying to see like how I changed as a player while also kind of figuring out kind of how to navigate the long game. This was my like third long org that I've played. I'm usually like either like minis, like 1 days or live games, couple days, that sort of thing. Like the like long format is still newer to me. And I was just trying to navigate like, all right, how do I do all of this? And I really enjoyed kind of the somewhat of a slower pace. You may remember me being somewhat frazzled in the first game. I was a little hyperactive there, but like having the ability to just kind of chill out, kind of assess the vibes a little bit better, I think was something that I liked about the long game a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that there's this difference between the two formats, and they suit different people differently. Some people get really frazzled in a long game because it's so intensive. You're constantly speaking to people. You essentially have your phone, and I mean, we're living in a society that's already addicted to our phones. You get thrown into a long game, your phone never leaves your hand
Oh yeah.
because you are just
Never.
always ready to communicate with people because you leave someone on red. I mean, we've seen the repercussions of that in previous seasons. You have someone and you don't respond to them for 2 hours and you haven't told them ahead of time, it might take a little bit of time. They think you're just blowing them off. Whereas the mini leaves other people frazzled because they don't know how to have quick social bonds with people. They don't know how to have these quick strategy talks in a setting where people can just pop in and out of at any given time. So
It's
it's
also
really
like
neat being a player who has played both in a DCP perspective. And you're one of the few that we have had who have played both variants of our game.
it's also like in the minis, you can see who's talking to who
Mm-hmm.
in the Zoom rooms. And so here I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. I felt like, my ultimate undoing was kind of like being blindsided by relationships that people had that were stronger elsewhere, which I mean is always
Yeah.
how it goes. But it's like you can at least kind of say, wow, these two people have been spending a lot of time in a room together in a mini, but like you can't really do that here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been kind of like revealing for me. I've enjoyed that a little bit more. And it's also just like, are you going stir crazy? Like when I was on Winter's Beach, I was absolutely frantic. I was like, what am I doing here? Like I can't even do this idol search because we don't have all the clues yet. I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I think Ben Hathaway was like, hey, I'm gonna log out for the next 2 days. See you next round. And love that for them.
Yeah, I don't know how he could do that. That's crazy.
Well, let's kind of dig into this a little bit. And Tommy, we'll kind of start with you. The game starts in a very interesting way. Obviously, we have that very
Does.
close first immunity challenge, and your tribe ends up winning. And then you get into the partner twist, and you're partnered with Kolby. And
Yeah.
from what we see in the episodes, you and Kolby seem to be sharing the most information in those early days of the game. So give me your impression of the partner twist and how you were planning on leveraging it through the game.
Okay, so I definitely I liked the partner twist. Like I liked it overall. It's a good twist. I just wish I didn't get partnered with Kolby. For obvious reasons. But overall, the way I was gonna leverage it was eventually I was thinking we were gonna swap into 2 different tribes instead of like the way we did, obviously. So I was like, okay, perfect. I have my numbers over here. I didn't know Kolby was like what he was doing over there. I was like, is he aligned with everyone? Is he lying to me? Could be lying to me. I didn't trust him for a second. He was telling me things. I didn't tell him anything. Yeah, because he even lied to me about the first vote originally. He said it was unanimous. It was like, why are you just lying to me? And then people took that. Yeah, it was okay. That was crazy. But yeah, that and then eventually I was gonna try and get him out around the swap time, and I ended up doing that. Or I didn't do that, but other people. Yeah, I just wish I didn't have Kolby. Even though I love Kolby. Kolby's a good kid, but
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because especially with Kolby being a little more absent from the game in those early days, you didn't have much,
exactly.
but there was still a lot of information coming through. And the biggest thing I think that differentiated you with this partner twist from other people is that you were disseminating that information amongst your tribe. Anything
Oh
Kolby
yeah.
told you, you seem to be giving to everyone on your tribe. So it led to Vekoma just having a lot of information
Yeah,
about what
exactly.
was perceivedly going on that Gerstlauer beach.
Yeah, because okay, yeah. When we won immunity, we were like very static. We got into like a call almost immediately, most of us at least, and we just talked for like an hour and we got to know each other. We texted all day. We were a big happy family, so we just like pretty much just spilled everything, or I spilled everything. Yeah. But yeah. Trying to think what else I could say to that point, but I can't think of anything.
It's all right. We'll switch it over to Benji here because you're on the opposite side of this.
Mhm.
You obviously have to go to this first tribal council. You have this wild tribal council. You are blindsided by Bryant playing an idol on Gabby. It's the first round. These type of things just don't tend to happen on Survivor. How are you feeling in the early parts of this game?
So I feel I didn't know how to feel round one. Jared was very obviously like assembling a crew, but it was also very obvious like the pecking order. I was number 3, Tawni was number 2, Bryant was number 4, and then like Josh was number 5. And it was very much just kind of like hey, we're all on call. What do we feel about like bringing this next person in? And it was just like, it was just very clear kind of what the order was. And so in that like original 4 or whatever that we were planning on kind of keeping the majority with, like I probably bonded closest with Bryant. And so there were a couple of things that I was like, okay, whatever. Like looking back, I was like, there should have been clues here. Jared was like very much like, let's get on call all the time. And it's like, that's fine. Everybody's going to have kind of a different vibe in terms of like, what's the activity level expected? What are the expectations of this game? And I think some other people were more happy to just be kind of like laying back. That's totally fine. And then round 1, Bryant pulls out this idol. And my first thought is, I'm going home. I was like,
Yep.
oh, I am going home. Like, nope, it's just what it is. He didn't tell me about this. This is a whole thing. And then we get through, and I remember Bryant scheduled a Zoom call for 30 minutes after tribal with me.
Oh,
And I was like, he's doing like proactive damage control.
yeah.
Because like you get a team of 3 together and you do an idol. You're still 3 out of 7. You have idled yourself into a minority. And I was like, okay, well, he's trying to pull me in as the 4th, and the other people will pull me as a 4th. And so I came out of that tribal after like the initial shock of like somebody who was working closely with me, who was giving me all of their information, who is partners with somebody who like I have a bit of a relationship with and kind of a little bit of built-in trust that we can capitalize on. They're gone. But going out of that, I was like, I'm probably in the power position on this tribe going into round 2, because I was like, everybody needs me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think the way that we see you play it there is really clever, right? Like, it's like, I'm not mad that this happened. I'm just like disappointed I'm left out of this vote, because like it feels like you couldn't trust me. And I think that was a perfect way to express your feelings to Bryant and be like, hey, listen, like I'm here. I'm still willing to work with you, and we can do this moving forward. But at the same time, you still have to temper your expectations of this guy just left you out of a major vote. And yes, it didn't ultimately blow back directly on you. And it is the early phases of the game, right? Like everyone's still establishing their relationships, but how are you supposed to take that, right? Like, how are you supposed to take it being on the outside?
Yeah.
That really kind of informed how I went about the rest of the game, which was like, get me off of this tribe as quickly as possible. And so I was just like, I'm going to flip. I don't care. I just want people to trust me with information. And so I think that ended up kind of turning into I have this information, please work with me. I have this information, please work with me. And, that obviously kind of like turned people off or whatever down the line. But like I tried to cast a net, and I think that left me in a space where I was like constantly doing this like, woe is me, please pick me up, I am just a small helpless little child. And it worked for a bit until it didn't.
Yeah, and that's the way Survivor goes sometimes, right? Sometimes you're riding high because you think, oh yeah, this is working perfectly fine. But then something happens, and I think like once we get into your boot episode, I think there's some evident points that I think lead to your boot here instead of someone else's. And it's kind of like this unfortunate mix of circumstances that lead to you going out here instead of probably Erin. However, before we get there, Tommy, in your tribe's first vote, it seemingly comes down to you and Joe as the 2 targets, right? And like you said, this is kind of where you realize you're on the bottom. Now, going into this round, you had kind of started establishing a pretty good relationship with Jordyn based on the edit. Who else on your tribe were you feeling good with in that first vote?
In that first vote, okay. So I was Jordyn, obviously, because we had that Pittsburgh connection, because she's originally from around here. Which is why she was in the PA Alliance, which was so weird. Joe's whatever. And then Katz and Sam and Erin, like the 4 divas, ended up being hearing that they were the divas was crazy, because I had no idea about that. But we had actually formed a 5-person alliance because we had a game night the one night. Like the second or third day before they went to tribal. We had a game night. It was just us 5 that showed up, and then we created the code names crew, which never made the edit, which is fair because I was on the bottom. And they were just doing that to make sure I felt comfy, which I did, and it worked. But besides that, like I wanted Cade out, and Hathaway was just there in my brain, and then I was close with Joe, but like if Joe went, so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, but serendipitously, Joe goes in this vote, who was your partner, Benji, which means you get repartnered with the one person going into this game you already know.
I was like, I think as soon as so just starting off with my relationship with Joe. My relationship with Joe was very odd because Joe was like, "Hey, we need to keep it secret that we're working together." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. I have a full list of the partners."
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And like I mentioned it.
Yeah, we all knew
in a previous episode of After the Snuff that one of the things with this partner twist is, yeah, you can kind of keep how much information you're sharing on the DL, but you also have to wonder how much other partners are sharing and then how much the people on those tribes are sharing with their people on the tribe. So it's risky for something like Bryant and Sam not corresponding with how they are going to tell the lie about this idol. And then all of a sudden, like, there are other things floating around and it leads to a lot of speculation later on. But continue. So your relationship with Joe was a little weird, and then
so we just didn't really talk a whole lot of game. I don't think Joe and I really ever got on call, but we just like texted. And then round 2, it was really interesting because it was basically just radio silence about what was because just let me know. Like, we have an advantage that I can come over and use an extra vote if we need to. And frankly, I was never planning on using that advantage that round.
Right.
Because it's much better as an individual extra vote.
Exactly.
But nobody was telling me what their partners were saying. Joe wasn't telling me anything. So at some point I was just kind of like, okay, I think this is happening. And kind of in my mind, I was like, Erin's alone over there. They're not going to have 2 singles. They're going to pair us up. And then I was kind of like, I just got to let this happen.
Yeah.
And then so I have an advantage, and Joe is playing so quiet that I don't think that he had told anybody about the advantage, which I think ended up being true.
Yeah, he didn't tell any of us.
Yeah. And so I was just like, I'm going to keep it secret. I'm not going to tell anybody except for, well, actually the people that knew on Garsow. So
yeah.
Whatever. I was just kind of like, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm just going to say that it's dead and it's fine. And then I was kind of figuring that I'd get paired up with Erin. I like put in my project, like, pair me up with Erin now, like directly at the start of round 3. Yeah. And then we get it, and then we pair up, and it's a good time.
Well, I mean, speaking of Erin, what is your guys' relationship prior to the game?
We like rolled in a Discord server together, and we still do. It was like we've never played a game together until now. Actually, we did. We played my first Survivor game together. We were on different tribes, and we went in like the same pre-merge, like double boot. So we never actually interacted. So it was just kind of like a baseline familiarity, like, hey, I know you, kind of deal. But it wasn't anything that was like, this like unbreakable blah blah blah. It was just kind of like a easy in to build trust with Jared earlier on. When Jared left and we ended up getting paired up, it was just kind of like okay, well, this relationship of mine has been out there, so I might as well just play into it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that completely makes sense to me, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, it's here, let's do it.
Yeah. I'm not going to be like, no, we've never met, we've never played together. It's just kind of like we know each other. It is what it is. People know each other. Every game is a lead into another game. Yep. People are going to know people, is what it is.
The online reality game community is smaller than one might think. Yes, there are a lot of people playing it, but it's a pretty small community. If you're playing these games, it's almost inevitable you run into other people who have played games, which is part of the reason why we try to cast new players, right? Like, we want to try to minimize that type of crossover. Because the other thing is, we as production, when we are interviewing people for our seasons and we have applications coming in, there are a lot of times where we just don't know if you've played a game. Like, we see people with like lists of like 20 games they've played. And as we're looking at their application, we're not looking precisely at everyone else's application for that exact game. Plus, people name games differently sometimes. And they're like, yeah, I played this game. And it's like, okay, cool. But it's one of those things where there's crossover. People run into each other. And it's kind of inevitable. So it happens every once in a while in our seasons. It doesn't happen too often, but this is just one of those times where we're people who ended up actually just ending up being partners in the end too, and ended up riding pretty strong together until your untimely demise.
Like I think we would have tried to like get together, but like the fact that we were partners was kind of like, okay, there's this like built-in trust, and at least there's kind of like this systemic thing here that kind of like mitigates our pairing up. Like if we each had our own separate partners and we were like rolling in a four alliance built off this thing, like that's very different than just like, hey, these two people are together and they're working together and we knew that they were going to be working together anyways, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So that takes us into the first twist where we break into the 7 partners and we get this like winners losers beach segment, and both of you end up on the losers beach for this first challenge.
Hey, Joe.
And it's kind of wild. Tommy, you're kind of like this decoy vote for a little while, as like the Vekoma who could go. However, Kolby's already lost his vote, so the Gerstlauers are at a disadvantage numbers wise because of it. And Benji, you get told Tommy is throwing your name out. So Tommy, I'm gonna let you explain the situation first. So we'll start there.
Okay.
What was going on with throwing out Benji's name?
Okay. So I made that group chat, the OG Vekoma group chat, which was the regular 5 or however many there were of us at the time, I think 5. Or no, it wasn't 4, I don't know, however many there were. And then we were just rattling off different people. I was like, okay, well, Kolby doesn't have a vote, and then I could say Benji for fun, whatever. Benji's Benji. I haven't talked to him a lot. Mainly I said that because I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun. I didn't think anyone would take it seriously. I said funsies maybe 2 times, and they just rode with it. Which, like, fair. Like, they don't know how chaotic I was. I wasn't trying to be chaotic, but yeah, that's like the whole thing. I never really wanted Benji out. It's just if it happened, it happened to me. That was the way I saw it.
Well, unfortunately, when we do come to the vote, there is a vote put on Benji, but it's not from Tommy. It's from Katz in an attempt to just separate Tommy as much from the Gerstlauers as possible. Benji, in game, did you have any idea this came from Katz? Did you just think it came from Tommy?
I had an inkling that it was either a throne vote or it was just Tommy not wanting to vote for his partner. And I was like very vocal about like, I don't care about this.
Right.
Like if Tommy is flipping on his partner, like, I don't know. I think that says something about Tommy's loyalty. And if he's like, hey, I'm just going to vote Benji because I said I'm going to vote Benji and I'm not going to vote my partner, that's also fine. I have no way to validate that. I think in my final words, I was just kind of like, not in my final words, but in like my little like post game thing, I was like, if Katz threw a vote on me like that, I think that would make sense. So like, I don't know. In a way, I was like, it's possible that somebody threw a vote to frame Tommy or Tommy just did it. Either way, does it change my math? Not really.
Yeah, especially because we did that Kolby vote and then we went right into a challenge. So we didn't even talk, and then you won, and then like
and then we never spoke again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
I was just kind of like, does it matter? No. Were we working together anyways? No. If Tommy voted for me, does it make sense? Yeah, kinda. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and then that takes us into the crux of this next episode. Tommy, you've lost a partner. You're now the odd man out, and you get given this decision going into this challenge. And you have 3 options to choose. You can pair up with a group of partners and then match one of them 8 times. You win, you're on winner's beach, you're safe. You can sit out of the challenge and just bet on a partnership to win. They win, you win. They lose, you lose. However, if they win, you go to Exile Island for the duration of the round. And then there's this third option, which is, okay, so you can choose a partner or a pair. You have to match both of them 5 times. So they both have to get it correct and you have to get it correct. Then if you manage to do that, you're safe. You go to Winner's Beach. You have the option of saving someone from Loser's Beach, but you have to be exiled for 12 hours.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind while you were posed with these options, and how were you analyzing which one to take?
So I pretty much just said, no, I want to play. So I just said no to B. I wanted to play the comp because like who doesn't want to play? Like it's fun. I was thinking about the first one, but then I was like, I don't know which pair to pick, whatever, blah blah blah. And then whenever I figured it out, I was like, okay, I want to go with 3 because like I want to play. And then the partners that I picked, Jordyn and Gabby, I specifically picked them because I had a close relationship with Jordyn, obviously. I thought. Gabby didn't have a vote,
Mhm.
so that was perfect. If we lost, we would still be up in majority.
Right.
And then I didn't know how close like Ben and Tawni were, that they did like all of that and did very well, and you two did. Yeah, pretty much that was pretty much my thought process, most of it that I can remember at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I kind of dissected this a bit last week and after the snuff of this idea of it's this risk reward aspect of it where you get to save someone. So if you did end up winning this and getting it, who were you going to save from that loser beach?
Probably someone from Gertzflower, to be honest.
Just to give the numbers advantage to Vekoma, or in order to build that relationship with the Gertzflower as they were kind of dwindling?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Like, of course, like, because then what? If that would mean 4 Vekoma 1, or no, 3 Vekoma 1. So then, my math is right. Yeah, I would probably pull Benji, honestly. And be like, hey, I didn't vote for you, all this jazz, and then but and obviously Vekoma would have the numbers still, so it helped me, helped my allies that I thought I had.
But you didn't have to save Benji because Benji ends up on winner's beach. And this is the interesting part of this game, I think, Benji, because you end up winning this one and the next challenge. So you're on winner's beach for 2 consecutive rounds. How much did this impact your game?
I think significantly. Because I think what it did is it kind of limited my ability to kind of like bond with the Vekoma people. Because like I didn't know about like the divas, but I knew I was like, okay, Erin is working with these people on Vekoma. And so like, honestly, like the day I went home, Erin like revealed the divas to me being like, there's this group chat. We've been running things on Vekoma. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. You said you liked all of those people multiple times, like in that exact. So like, I assumed there was a thing. But it kind of limited my ability to kind of like get in with them because I was there with like Hath, who wasn't really in there. And then I was there with Cade, who was like in there, but not like in there.
Yeah.
So it limited my ability to really connect with like Sam, with Jordyn, and with Katz. So like Katz and Sam and I think had like a really good connection round 3 when we made that kind of like big cross tribe pairs alliance. And then like Josh goes home and I'm like, oh shit, they've immediately flipped on this alliance that we've made. And I was like, I just need to win, frankly. I'm like, all right, well, if I can get to merge, we can reconnect with numbers, all of these sorts of things. But it's also like, I don't know why they did this. I don't know what my relationship is with these people now. Like, where am I at? And so I was like, I can't take the risk of like not actively trying to win all of these challenges while also at the same time, if you win, you're basically exiled.
Yeah.
Like I had basically no game talk for 6 days.
And that's one of the interesting things about the Swiss, because of the fact that the winner's beach always was a minority. You're already talking with, like, you're already with someone you've already been talking to no matter what, plus someone from your original tribe at the minimum. So you're only getting that opportunity to talk to one more person. So I think there's this big risk reward. And I think a lot of the times when we play Survivor, we think it's just better to be safe.
Yeah.
Right? You like, it's better to be safe. I think we're supposed to throw these pair challenges just so you, but that being said, Benji, you were at a complete disadvantage to that because 2 people from your original tribe had lost their votes.
Yeah. And I was like, even going into the Kolby vote, I was like, okay, like I can't display a preference here. I just need to go along and hope that I'm like building relationships with these people that are on Vekoma. And I was like, okay, well, y'all do what you want to do. Like I'm along for the ride if you want to do whichever. that's fine. And they settled on Kolby, and I was like, that's okay. Doesn't matter to me. And then Josh goes home, and I was like, oh, okay, well, they're just gonna take us out, and I need to be like king of the scrap pile, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of what I was aiming for. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll decimate Gerstlauer with you. It's fine. I was frankly shocked that Tommy went home. I thought Bryant was dead.
Yeah.
I was like, Bryant's going home. It's going to be what it's going to be. They've already flipped on the alliance. Might as well keep going. Just get the steamroll going. And I was like, all right, maybe this alliance is salvageable, question mark.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that when I was with Cade was kind of giving us like half info of why Josh went home.
Right.
Not like the full details that I needed from like Katz or Sam, or like, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So I thought that was just really interesting in terms of, how are these dynamics evolving when I'm not there? And the answer was like, they really weren't, kind of. They just like were sidestepping the other alliance, and I wasn't in as good as I wanted to be, but also like safety is safety, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah. And that's part of Survivor, right? Like you have to balance those type of checks, and like we have those checks and balances in the game that make it hard for us to figure out exactly how to do it. And that's the fun of Survivor, right? There's a lot of talk in like Big Brother about like the proper way to play Big Brother. There are so many different ways you can play Survivor, and we've seen it over 46 seasons of the main show at this point, that there are different ways to win, and you can go in with an idea and you have to adjust based on the game that's presented to you, right? And let's start getting into this pair of episodes. So Tommy, at the beginning of episode 5, we do see you kind of talking to Ryan in the wake of the Josh vote, and you say, Ryan, it was you until 2 hours beforehand.
Yes, it was.
How was your relationship with Ryan, and what were you trying to do in this moment?
Okay, well, what they didn't show the episode prior was I had a call with Ryan before that, before we decided, like, okay, so we left that big call voting for Ryan, right? We left that big call voting for Ryan, as far as I knew. But then I got on a call with Ryan that was like, hey, what's up, dudes? Because we hadn't talked yet, of course. And we're both young, 20-some-year-olds. So we're like, hey, let's hang out, have some fun. We talked for a while, and I was like, okay, I really like this dude. He's on the bottom of Gerstlauer. He can help us with numbers at merge if we need it. And he can be 8th place if we just steamroll. And then going into the next round, I told him that because I wanted to gain his trust, which it did. And I wanted, this is what I'm going to say. I wanted him to be my goat, basically, because I knew he was on the bottom, and I thought I was like near the middle, because I thought Cade and Hath were below me at least. So I thought I was like near the middle, and I was like, okay, Ryan and Cade are together, and then I'm with Cade and Ryan, and then Hathaway, and all that. That's what I was going for. I was going to try and make an alliance of me, Cade, Ryan, and like whoever Ryan wanted from Gerstlauer. But I never ended up having to do that.
Right. And then on top of that, like as we progress into the episode, we kind of get the first rumblings of people suspecting how close you and Erin are, Benji. We have Katz and Cade kind of discussing it, and it then moves into Erin telling you about Hathaway's conversation that she had in the previous episode with them about, who Hathaway doesn't trust on that original Lacoma tribe, and Erin spilling that all to you. So let's be real. You and Erin were pretty close in this game and working very lockstep. How helpful was this information? Because it doesn't seem like it really came up, and it never seemed like you're like, hey, let's get rid of Hathaway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be frank, the entirety of my interactions with Hathaway in game, they were immune.
Right.
Like it was either on Winner's Beach or round 1 at the merge when they won the challenge. So I was like, I could never target Hathaway. I would have targeted Hathaway. We had like joked about like a Ben alliance, and I thought that would have been so fun. Like Come on,
Yeah, it would have.
it would have been cute. It would have been fun. Like it could have lasted a couple of rounds and then like it blows up, but whatever. I was like, the fact that Hathaway was kind of like had this distrust of me, I was like, good read, because I'm not working with you. The people on your tribe that I'm trying to work with are not you. But it was also just kind of like a, hey, I'm trying to like do this like little charm offensive thing with Hathaway. Like I think we had a couple of really good calls when we were all on Winners Beach, and then to get to the merge, and Katz does like this like, oh, Hath wants you out immediately.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. I was like, I thought I bought myself a round or two with like a couple hours of calls on Winners Beach, but it was like, oh no, they're making a correct read for them.
Yeah. Let's get into this challenge. This was a doozy of a challenge. And you know what? I'll say it on behalf of production. Sometimes we overestimate our players. Sometimes we have this great idea. It makes a lot of sense in concept.
Kolby would have done really well.
We test it out and everything seems to click. We have an idea of how long it should take, because like before we do our seasons, we're testing challenges and stuff. Sometimes we forget we've been doing this for 4 years at this point, and we understand the concept of challenge, and we understand exactly how to do things. We know what we're looking for, things like that, and we don't, take into account how people might struggle in some of these at times. This challenge was run. You had scheduled times. Correct. We'll break into the challenge. It was our roller coaster relay. Each player had to complete 7 different tasks. Together, they had to work on a crossword puzzle. They had to do the blackjack, which is where they were flipping a card with a pencil into a solo cup to equal 21. If they get over 21, they have to take the cards out, try to do it again. You couldn't look at the cards the first time through on your deck, so you're kind of playing a little lucky here, hoping that you get 11 and then flip a 10, really. Then after you go through the deck a full time, you can start using particular cards in order to get 21. Everything's timed. And then there's the matching, where instead of it being timed, you get 5 seconds for every card you select. So however many times it takes you to get through it. Then there's the we had 2 other challenges that had to be done individually. There was the cup toss, where you had 2 solo cups, either mouth to mouth or butt to butt. I'm pretty sure everyone did it mouth to mouth, because I think that was the easier way to do it.
Yeah,
and you had to flip them and catch them in the bottom cups. We had the plank, which had to be held for as long as it took the other partner to solve the word search, which, I'll be real, this is what we overestimated everyone on. Solving a word search. We thought, you know what, how hard can this be? The secret password is like literally spelled out here. You barely had to find all the words in order to figure it out if you're looking closely enough for it. I'm pretty sure this exact type of word search was on Survivor 46, like a week or 2 before we ended up running this challenge. Coincidentally, we're like, oh, everyone's going to figure this out now. Nope, that was not the case. This took way longer than we thought, which meant everyone had to hold planks for way longer than we thought. And because of that, this challenge ended up taking, I'm pretty sure we originally scheduled you each for a 20-minute time period.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And then we took like an hour. And
everyone ended up taking an hour. This is probably the longest challenge we will ever run in DCP history. It took us 7 hours to get through it all. And I don't know. I don't know what to say. It was a doozy, but
it was fun. At least it was fun.
That's what matters. That we take a lot of pride in that. Benji, you end up coming out on top in this one, and you and Erin actually go first.
Did you?
So we went first. It was a 20-minute time slot, and I think all in all we took like, our time was like reasonable, but we took like 45 minutes, and we were just kind of like, oh, we probably bombed that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're kind of like communicating with people and they're like, oh my gosh, it was supposed to go at 8 o'clock and it's 10 o'clock and it just went. And we were like, okay, maybe we did okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it was
that was one
like,
of the last.
I like a lot of like the like little variety games sort of things.
Mhm.
I'm like, I consider myself okay at challenges. And I was like, all right, this is stuff that is like randomly in my wheelhouse. I was upset I had to do the planking,
That's
but
fair. That was
I
miserable.
kept getting endurance challenges like right after I went to the gym, which was like
Right.
really, really sucky.
Ugh.
But I wasn't gonna make Erin like do an endurance challenge on a bathroom floor for that one.
That's right. Erin was playing in a bathroom.
Erin was playing in a
Yeah.
bathroom. I think if Erin wasn't playing in a bathroom, we win that challenge too.
Yeah, that's fair. And I remember, like, you had to plank for what, 18 minutes or something like that?
I don't remember.
12 minutes. It was
You
12 minutes. I
blinked a
remember now.
while. You
It was
was
it
like-
was 12 minutes. It was a while.
I was
And
laying there and I was like, can I tell Erin what the secret passcode is?
well, that's the thing, right? And we see Gabby talking about it later on when Gabby's planking and Jordyn's trying to solve it. So Gabby's like, I know exactly where all of these words are. It just so happens Gabby had to do the plank because Jordyn had knee surgery right before the game and couldn't do that type of thing. And we see as we progress through the challenge, the thing that really surprised, I think, most of us is a lot of people started timing out on these things. And now, to be fair, there were no timeouts for yours and Erin's run, Benji. Because mainly we thought everyone was going to do better than they did. Sorry, cast of Corkscrew Cove. We had high expectations for you.
Yeah.
Which then, and when we saw how long the challenge was starting to run, we're like, okay, we have to put timeouts into these because it's going to get ridiculous. And we had to base the timeouts on essentially what you and Erin did to make it fair, right? Because we're like, okay, we can't make this timeout like the time Benji did because that's unfair to Benji at that point. So instead, like we took a look at it and we figured, and when it became clear people were struggling with this word search, we knew the plank timeout has to be, you can drop now, not have to do this. It'll take 20 minutes. Like that's it. That's how your time works. It was a learning experience for us as production, but everyone came out of it saying how much fun they had still. And we take pride in that.
Super cool challenge.
Which,
I thought
yeah.
it was really cool. Like the elements of like you and your partner get to decide like what your strengths are. I thought that was like really fun. I liked a lot of there's like the how well do you know each other challenge earlier with the matching, and then there was like you each pick and it's cumulative time. Like I don't know. I thought that the way that the duo challenges were done were like very cool, and I thought it was really well done. Like the timing aspect is going to be what it is, but like, hey, I went first. I don't care.
Yeah, you just get the benefit of getting to sit there and wait. And of course, at the same time, we're like, yeah, you can't tell anyone about this because we can't have that advantage going on. And because everyone's going, all the pairs are going consecutively, it's a lot of time that you can't talk to anyone about what you just did. So tell me about it, Tawni. After the challenge was over, did people start comparing the challenge to each other? Like, was there talk as to what was going on?
I think so. I think there was definitely talk of it because it took so long. Because I was like second or third last to go. I think Jordyn and Gabby were last. I don't remember.
I believe that's correct.
But I got me and Katz got second to last, so I was convinced he threw it after I got voted out. But that's not the point. That's not what we're talking about yet. I'm sorry, I blanked out. 1 second. Let me find it. And I just unplugged my headphones. 1 second.
Yeah, it's just that idea of like this challenge goes on for so long. So I'm sure there was some anticipation to kind of discuss it with everyone.
Yeah. Definitely. We all pretty much we made the group chat again. I think I made it again because I was like, okay, I'm loyal to all of you. So I'll make a group chat of it. And we basically just talked about it for like 30 minutes about how hard it was. how fun it was, how hard it was. It's like all that. And then we started talking about who we wanted to vote out because we were like, it should be an easy vote. It's merge next round. Let's just get to merge and we'll be fine. Obviously, it wasn't fine.
Yeah, and well, let's get into that vote now because Benji, sorry, you're on Winner's Beach. It doesn't really matter what's going on with you at this point. But Tawni, So once again, you're on Loser's Beach. Now, because you ended up picking or because of the way that everything worked out here, you're still in the majority. And you're at a point where you have to make a decision of who of these Gerstlauers are to go for it. But the rest of your Vekoma tribe's like, okay, let's get Tawni out. And the reason they cite is Tawni's too unpredictable at this point. Did you feel that you were playing an unpredictable game? Or do you feel like this was a misconception from your tribe? I mean, we saw in your final words that you were riding with them. You were very Vekoma strong. But how do you think the way you played led to this perception that you were kind of a wild card?
It definitely was a misconception, definitely. But I see now how it could be, how the way I played could be misconstrued that way, because I was a very paranoid player. Like that, if we go back to the Joe vote and me wanting to split votes on Cade, it's because one, I didn't trust Cade. Two, I wanted Cade out, and Joe like told me he like alluded to having an idol. He alluded to me having an idol. So I was like, okay. I didn't know how close they were with Cade. I just said it. I was like, I'm feeling stressed. I want to get this over with. I don't want Erin to go, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's how, but I can definitely understand why it was misconstrued, but I wasn't trying to play chaotic, I can tell you that much, or unpredictable.
Well, and then we get into this point where we kind of see some of the conversation in this episode go to this impending war of the Vekomas. Yes, the divas are there. They're all working together. We see Jordyn being like, I can't go far with these people. I have to start making a decision here of who's going. And like, Tawni's a number for me. Tawni and I have this close relationship. But I need to work on the Gerstlauers. I need to work on Bryant, Gabby, and Ryan in order to kind of position myself better in the long run. Was there any talk that you were having, Tawni, with your other Vekomas about turning on Vekomas at this point? Or was it still just get the Gerstlauers out of here first, we'll deal with them, and then move on to us afterwards?
To me, it was so eerily quiet. Nobody told me anything. Nobody talked to me at all. We just decided, I said, let's just do Gabby, this, blah, blah, blah. And then nobody talked to me all day, the rest of the day. Because I went to work. You can tell, I'm wearing my work shirt in 3 straight tribal councils.
Mm-hmm.
I just got home from work. I was texting Jordyn at work. I was like, hey, I'm running late, so tell Ian. I was texting Ian and Lily saying I'm running late, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, we'll wait for you. And yeah, it was so eerily quiet. I was like, it's perfect. It's just Gabby then. But seeing that Bryant and the Gerstlauers wanted to vote out Sam or whatever they wanted to do, if they had brought that to me, I probably would have done it. Because Sam was definitely, I thought Sam was running the game.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I had no idea about any of the advantages in the game.
Right.
None. Nobody told me anything. I didn't even know Sam had an idol. Sam didn't even tell me the idol story after Bryant used it. I was like, oh, Bryant just found it, whatever. So finding that out was a shock. And I was texting the group chat. I was like, Bryant, if you brought this to me, I would have done it probably. But he was like, we have no game relationship, which is fair because I didn't talk to the Gerstlauers like ever. Because I was so just like wanting to stick with Vekoma so hard that I just was like, there's no point right now in talking to them until we get to merge and then I can finally talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the game though, right? Like it's so hard to figure out exactly how much you're supposed to talk to the other side because if you talk to them too much, your original tribe gets sketched out and they don't know if they can trust you. And if you don't talk to them at all, you're not setting yourself up.
Which is another reason because they thought I was getting really close to Ryan, which I was. I called him the 8th Vekoma or whatever I called him, which that I now understand why they thought I was unpredictable and all that. But I was just excited. That's just all. I'm young. I'm excited about things. I think Ryan losing that challenge or winning that challenge really got me out. That's what I blame it on. Because Ryan, I feel like would have made a bigger target out of himself by trying to, because like the Garsows were down with voting Rhino. Like they were like, and it was evident in the Josh tribal coming into that my tribal. I was so like perfect. It's perfect. Got Josh out, and the Garsows voted each other. So I was like, whatever, we're safe. Whatever, we can get to the merge. And that's how I felt coming in.
Well, we do see a couple of interesting facts pop up in this episode leading into the vote. And one of them is Katz saying, we can't push this vote. Like, yes, Vekoma has a 5-3 advantage on this beach right now, but we can't push this vote. Otherwise, it's going to be too obvious that we're all working very closely together. And it seems to be part of the reason why you end up going here. But on the other side, we have Bryant starting to spill the beans about Sam's idol. Benji, as someone who was on Winner's Beach and found out about this later, do you think the way Bryant approached this round of just like, I'm going to let all of my game information out at this point and just hope people latch onto it is a way to approach being completely outnumbered?
I think it's a reasonable way. Like Bryant, and this is not like a bad thing. Bryant plays like somebody who doesn't play orgs.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing, but it's very unpredictable to an extent. Like I remember Brian and I had this conversation in like round 2 or something like that, where he was like, now I'm just going to lay low for a bit. And I was like, I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think it was like a totally fair play, because you're not just saying like, hey, here's all of my dirt on other people. It's saying, here's all of this dirt on other people. By the way, they're a much bigger threat than I am.
Yeah.
Which, like, fair. It's a good way. It kind of gets everybody being like, okay, so Brian's lying to me, but also Brian's telling me the truth about Sam lying to me. So it kind of shifts that focus. And honestly, like, good on Brian. Like, he made a bomb play in round 1, and like, he's still here at the merge, and Erin and I were like twiddling our thumbs on Winner's Beach going like, oh yeah, this is when they're gonna get Bryant. Like they got Josh, they're getting Bryant. It's like Bryant's gone. And like, I don't know. He scraped through and apparently was never that big of a target and has kind of shifted things elsewhere. So I mean, I think it's a totally fair play, and I think it probably worked in his favor there.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because it doesn't seem like we get a little bit of Bryant talk as being the target, but then it like becomes Gabby talk as a target, and then Tommy obviously is where it ends up going. But we see a lot of positioning from the Vekomas in this point. We see Katz talking about, I really want to get close to Cade now, like after this Josh boot, and we've worked on that. He wants to get closer to Hathaway, who already seems pretty tight with it, right? Like, I mean, we see Hathaway in the second episode talking about how he wants to ride to the end with Katz and Tawni until Tawni starts doing some sketchy stuff in episode 6. But so Katz is kind of finding himself in the middle of this Vekoma civil war that's going on with no eyes really on him at this point. And we do start getting that information about Sam's idol going out. It doesn't lead anywhere. No one's willing to take the shot. Everyone's like, yeah, you know what? It's fine. Like, we know about it. It's okay. But no one's willing to take the shot. So it's very interesting because the way that everyone approached this vote is, this wasn't a vote for a result currently. Everyone approached this vote as that this is a setup for the future. And unfortunately, that led to Tommy, you being the one who gets exercised from the game, and in a 7-1 vote, it's unanimous vote. Just as we wrap up your portion of the game, what was your experience playing the game? Like, how did it feel to you in the moment, and how does it feel now reflecting on it?
In the moment, I was having so much fun. It was like, as I said earlier, it's the best org I ever played, production wise. Obviously not gameplay wise. but I was just having so much fun with all these people. I was growing all these close friendships that I was like genuine with. I was so just excited to talk to these people for however long. We still talk to each other. And yeah, it was just so much fun. Did I cry? I'm trying to think if I cried after I got voted out. I don't think I did. But I did just go to bed immediately because I had just gotten home from a long day at work. I was like stressed out of my mind. And then you can see it in my face. I'm just like, oh my goodness, like what the fuck is happening? Yeah, it was a rough night. A rough night that night. And then I literally went and unfriended everyone. I was so pissed off. I unfriended everyone. And Erin's like, I didn't vote you out. What did I do? Yeah, she told me that after. But yeah, I was upset. I was definitely upset after going home. Like it was because I felt like I had made so many genuine connections with these people.
Yeah.
That weren't reciprocated in the way that I thought they were being. And watching it back, it makes a lot of sense now. But I still obviously wish I made the merge at least. I don't like being the last pre-juror. That's not fun. Boring.
No, but speaking of the merge, we're there now. We're at the merge. We started off episode 6, going straight into it. Welcome to the Zamperla tribe. And here we are, the individual portion of the game. Benji, how do things change here?
Things change significantly. I am somebody who like always guns for the merge immunity. And after being safe and out of the scramble for a couple of rounds, I was like, I must win this. Like it has to happen, needs to work. And there's like the travel Pong, like World Traveler. I forget specifically what the name of it is, but it was like we could like fill our cups with water, and I like chose not to, and I kept like making them and knocking over so nothing counted, and I was like getting frustrated, and like I don't know. I was disappointed in myself because I feel like I should have done better than I did. But also, all of these dynamics change significantly because I'm meeting Jordyn for the first time. I'm having game talk with Hathaway for the first time. I'm having game talk with Cade for the first time. And I'm figuring out, like, okay, what does this look like? And then I hear that my name's out there almost immediately.
Right, because Katz comes to you almost immediately and says, hey, by the way, Hathaway's throwing your name out.
And so I'm trying to figure out, basically my game plan is like, how do I get in with effectively what is the divas, but I don't know that they're the divas.
Right.
At that point, I'm like, how do I get in with Erin's people? And I play up like everyone's been lying to me. Bryant's lied to me about this idol so many times, and now Sam has one and he didn't tell me about it. And now Sam has an idol and Sam didn't tell me about it. But I was just like, hey, Sam, like, I know you've got this thing. Bryant told me Bryant's throwing you under the bus. So I kind of go to that, and I'm just kind of like take me in, use me. I'm your number, whatever. And so like my quick connections in terms of like how I feel like I can kind of get in there, a lot of it revolves around Katz and Sam.
Right.
Because we kind of had that like cross-tribal thing from round 3 or whichever it was. And I was like, Ben Katz and I had a lot of like mutual friends, like 2 or 3 connections away. And I was like going to visit a mutual friend like the next week. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like, We'll have to like call when I'm with them so we can like all say hi together. It'll be like a cutesy little thing. And so we like bonded over a lot of like not even necessarily game stuff, but like personal stuff.
Right.
And that was nice because I was like, oh, nice, a friend who's going to be like a game ally, and it's going to be nice. And at that point, I don't have any idea that he like really threw the vote on me for the Kolby boot. And it was like, all right, well, whatever. And then Sam and I have like a really good kind of conversation about like, hey, Bryant has lied to us both a lot. We should align.
Right.
And at this point, I'm still trying to keep my relationship with Bryant open as well. So I'm like, am I going to go with Vacoma? Am I going to try and like rally the Gerstlauers with my new shiny extra vote and like cause a 6-6 tie or something like that? Like, what are the options available? And I feel really comfortable with the Vekoma side of things because Sam goes, yeah, I'd play the idol on you if I felt like you were going to go home.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, I like that. He's saying all of these sweet things to me. And I feel like, this is like a thing that we can move for. And I'm also like, I can't drive this vote because I don't have the manpower to be able to do so.
Right.
I'm normally somebody who is like, yes, let's rally the votes. And so I was playing like a very different game than I'm used to. I was kind of just charm offensive as much as I could. And I'm trying to figure out like, where do I lie with all of this? And I was like, I feel pretty okay. Everybody's kind of making like a big show of like shutting Hathaway down and all of this. So I was like, okay, I feel okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing at this point in the game, right? Like, there's so much information now. I think people kind of underestimate what it's like playing with 7 or 8 people to playing with 11 or 12 people, and how different that makes it when you are playing one of these online games and you're communicating with people all the time, you're talking to people nonstop. Now all of a sudden there's additional people, more than you've been talking to already, that you have to talk to as well and balance all of those different conversations going on. But first, we do have this immunity challenge in which you have to use 2 pencils to carry a ping pong ball 6 feet away and then toss them into solo cups. It was played in 3 rounds. And Benji, like you said, you know what? If we give you a chance to put water in your cups, advice for every future Castaway, do it.
Do it.
There's a reason we're saying, hey,
Do it, definitely.
you can do this. It's because that weight will help you sink balls.
You should.
Yeah.
Not Benji go to that.
But we go into this. The most impressive thing about this challenge is Jordyn, who doesn't have function of her knee, having to scoot across the floor and still somehow makes it on past that first round.
She's insane.
And then we get into idol talk. So you guys have been getting hints in tree mail all the way up through the pre-merge. And then all of a sudden we drop the actual idol clue and you have to solve it. And apparently the divas were all on a call together and Jordyn solves it and says the number out loud. So Katz ends up getting the idol.
I can't believe he did that. That's crazy.
You know what? I'm just going to say it. I've seen many of these orgs. I've played a few myself. Don't solve idol clues out loud.
Yeah, that's not smart.
Like, I'm granted, don't like be in the middle of a conversation, solve an idol clue, and just like, clearly solve an idol clue like I did back in Exile Island, and Greg just knew I had an idol because of it. Don't say answers to idol clues out loud because someone else is going to be able to type it into their prod chat faster than you are.
Yeah. And this is like when Erin like reveals the divas to me.
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, the number's 16. And I like guess it. And they're like, oh, it's gone. And I was like, dang it. So I'm like, somebody has an idol. It's probably some of these people. And she was like, who knows who's got it, whatever. But yeah, I was like, crap. Because you guys did almost this exact same thing in All-Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right. I was around for All-Stars. I was like watching faithfully. I was like around with like Lydia and Garso and Sarah. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what they're doing. It's gonna unlock. And I just like wasn't fast enough.
Sometimes you just have to get lucky with these games and hope that you are on your phone when an idol clue goes out. I mean, in Exile, we had the same type of clue, right? Like it's built up through tree mail the entire time. And we've gone to the merge. I finally set up a call with Greg. It's the first time Greg and I have a chance to talk to each other the entire game. And literally, as we are logging onto Zoom, the idol clue drops. I'm like, cool, I have to do this now as I'm in this conversation with this person I'm meeting for the first time. And that's totally not sketchy at all. But you got to do what you got to do because waiting just a little while, we have Cade talking about it where Ryan was like, okay, let's try to solve this idol clue 3 hours later. And Cade's like, bro, it's totally gone. Like, there's no point in doing this.
I think I was on call with Bryant
Mm-hmm.
and I saw Tree Mail maybe like 5 or 10 minutes later, and I was like, oh, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
It has to be gone.
I mean, there's no harm in trying to solve a clue later, just because sometimes people don't get it right away. I think the first game I played in, we didn't solve the idol clue for a week before someone found it. But that was also a ridiculously hard idol clue. But alas, don't tell your idol answers out to your allies because they will, you know what? I know it doesn't matter how close you are. The advantage is an advantage and everyone's going to play for it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And then like
definitely.
even knowing the number that
Mhm.
it was, you know, when Katz shows up with the iPhone 16, I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Like, iPhone 16 isn't real. And I was like,
Yeah,
I
that
would've
really
put that
helped
up.
there.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, I'm glad that I'm gone, or else I would have just put that on blast. But
Well, there's a lot of conversation going on here, and a lot of it comes down to you, Benji, and Erin seem to be in this position where you kind of have to decide what's going to happen in this vote. You have to decide if you're going to stick with the Vacomas, if you're going to, like you mentioned earlier, or you're going to work with the Gerstlauers, figure that out. And because of that, you start revealing your extra vote to a lot of people. And I
I
think
feel
this
like
is really,
like three.
yeah, well, you know what? 3 is enough of a bunch.
That's fair. That's
Because
fair.
it's enough that everyone knows about it eventually.
Yeah,
And honestly, I think you revealing this extra vote is
probably send
kind
me
of
home.
what, yeah, it's
Oh,
what
100%.
puts you home.
100%.
So let it be a lesson to everyone. Don't reveal your advantages to people.
Oh,
It was tough in this situation when it was a pair and you're not sure how much
yeah.
information was given out already. But everyone's suspicions started going towards 3 people in this episode. We saw people kind of changing their tone on Tawni. People had already been suspicious of you and Erin, but like people grew really suspicious of Erin this episode. And ultimately, the decision came down to Benji has an extra vote, and that's more dangerous than all of these people being in the game.
Mm.
So
I don't know if I buy that math, but like,
I don't either. I mean, you know what? Yes, I think Jordyn said
Whatever.
it. Benji and Erin are 3 people because of this vote. It's only for 1 vote, guys. Like it's not
yeah,
like it's a permanent extra vote.
like frankly, if it was an idol, I'm not telling people shit about that.
Yeah.
If it's an extra vote, like that's a trust builder. I went to
Mhm.
Katz with that to be like, hi, I can provide value to you later in the game when
Yeah.
the Vacoma War happens.
And I think it's kind of like the unfortunate circumstance of where you were put at this
Mhm.
merge, where you do find yourself on the bottom. You're in the minority group of the original Gerstlauers. You're trying to position yourself with these Vacomas. So you bring them information that's like, hey, I have this. This is something you can use later. But in the end, it almost made you more dangerous because of how close you were with Erin. And
Yeah.
Erin was that person who could leverage it the best out of any of the divas.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I think if I was like Cade and I came to Katz with like, hey, I've got an extra vote, they go, cool, besties now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it was just like, okay, well, Erin and I are there. And then the fact that the 2 people that Erin and I had chats with start going, do you have a chat with Benji and Erin? I do have a chat with Benji and Erin. And
Yeah.
it's Cade and Ryan and it's Katz.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they must have chats with everybody when it was literally only them.
And that's kind of like the difficult part of navigating the social game is you don't know who's sharing information with who. And the fact that we see Katz is doing what he said in the previous episode. He's getting closer to Cade. He is working that, and they're sharing a lot more information with each other. And because of that, we also see Ryan kind of like moving his way into that diva spot instead of Erin, where like we see this power structure changing. And then on the other side, we have Hathaway, who has been like ride or die with Tawni. All of a sudden, he's just like super cold on Tawni, and we don't see how it falls out in the episode. We don't see exactly what happened to make Hathaway stopped trusting him. But we do get an allusion to some 4-minute voice memo. Benji, did you hear about this at all or in game? Like what was going on with Tawni?
Oh, I did. I heard like that was the story. The way that I heard about that is that there was something where like Hath wanted Tawni to vote this way, and like maybe somebody was not feeling their right self for some particular reason one way or another. I didn't get details, but it was just kind of like yeah, this is how things are going to go and this is what the boot order is going to be, and Tawni was like, I don't like that. And apparently Tawni was just kind of like doing whatever, and I was like, okay, well, this is a reason that people are aiming for somebody that isn't me, so I kind of have to be like, wow, yeah, that is really weird. I bet that's a really big deal and it should be addressed sooner rather than later. Because I was like, all right, well, I like Tawni. Hathaway and I have no relationship. Hathaway's immune. And I need to pivot, start running another direction. And it was just like, nah. So it was the talk of the town, but I was just kind of like, whatever, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, and we also see that part of it comes from the fact that you are this target at this point, because Tawni says it herself in confessional. A shot at you isn't just a shot at Erin, like people are painting it out to be. It's also a shot at Tawni. She feels like it's a personal attack, and especially coming from her partner who she thought she could trust. Like it makes sense as to why she would be upset about this potential throw here. Tommy, what do you do in this situation when people are coming at you and being like, hey, we are getting rid of this person. Like, yeah, we're close. We know you're close with them, but they're closer with someone else. Do you just cut your losses, or do you make a stink like this when you're already in a minority?
Okay, if I'm already in the minority, I personally would just throw them out. Like, cut my losses, whatever. Doesn't matter much to me. Honestly, depends. It depends because we saw how Bryant did it in the first episode. Because he was in the minority with Gabby and Josh. He used it on Gabby, and now they're both here. They're both at the merge. They're perfectly fine, pretty much. So it definitely depends on the ramifications of it, and like what it'll do for your future. It definitely depends on that in my brain, like how you can work it without. I can't think of English now.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying though. This idea of like it's that pro-con analysis of like how much is this impacting your game? Is it better to put up a stink here to keep your solid number, or is it better to go along with this so that you survive a vote? And then, like,
exactly, yes.
I know one of the personal philosophies I take into Survivor that I spout on podcasts all the time is you usually have to survive one vote. Everything can change after that.
Exactly.
That being said, Survivor is an intense game, and I don't think people realize that when like we're playing these party games and we're flipping cups and throwing ping pong balls and things like that.
Oh, I was stressing.
Yeah, you're stressed. Emotions are running high all the time. This type of response from Tawni makes sense. I had a response like this. It was after a vote instead of before a vote, being told what was happening. But sometimes you lose that ability to just like rationally think in the game, and you have to just like let it out. I get it. Tawni, I commend you for doing this, because you know what? Sometimes you have to. We'll see if it pays off in the end. We'll see if Tawni still kind of has this target on her from this. But it does seem like everyone's kind of focusing on Erin here as someone who, you know what? Erin's a strong player. Erin is someone who we think will flip on us at some point. But it's so hard. And this is why, again, Survivor is so interesting again. And these social strategy games are so interesting because there are so many intricate little details and layers to every interaction you're having. And the information that comes out makes it hard to determine exactly how is best to approach this. And you can use any number of theories to figure it out. all honesty, like when you get to the end of the game, you can't even use confirmation bias to figure out what you did is right or
Exactly,
wrong
yeah.
because you're not even getting the full story.
Yeah.
So we get to this vote. And I have things to say about this vote because we have not seen a vote this random since
random.
Survivor Borneo.
Oh, yeah.
This is the merge boot at Survivor Borneo, where there is an alliance who is clear. They know what they're doing. They are putting names down, and everyone else is just throwing votes where they think they'll land. We have Benji, you and Erin put votes on Tawni. We have a vote on Sam. We have a vote on Gabby. We have a vote on Cade for some reason. Like, the Gerstlauers have no sense of cohesion on this vote whatsoever. And the Vacomers are just like, yeah, bye, Benji.
Bye.
That was kind of what the game was like. I was like, if there is any sort of opposition to whatever the Vacomas choose, I need to lead this, and that compromises my ability to flip with them, integrate, kind of wiggle my way further with Erin. And so I just chose to not talk about the vote with any of my OG tribe members. And they kind of did the same because I think that we've been outnumbered for so long. It's just kind of like, here's what the vote is. And there wasn't really an alternate plan.
Yeah.
So I was just, I don't know. As soon as I saw my name the first time, I was like, oh, no, it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
They flipped. But it was like seeing 5 people get votes out of 11 was just.
Yeah, it's insane.
It was a time.
It's not something that happens very often, which is, it's fun. It's fun when it happens. We get to talk about it. And do you think if there was any chance whatsoever, if you did talk to the Gerstlauers, you all could have agreed on someone to go for? And if you were, who would you even target of the Vacomas?
So my thing is that I didn't think so either because I knew that Cade and Ryan were really close.
Right.
The way that I was playing with Erin was the way that I kind of expected that everybody was playing. I knew that the Vacomas were very close, but I knew that like Erin and I were sharing a lot of information. I knew that Cade and Ryan were sharing a lot of information. So I was like, if I get all of the Gerstlauers together and use my extra vote, that's 6 votes. We can at best cause rocks, which not everybody is going to go for.
Exactly.
Erin was not super willing to flip on them at that point, and so frankly, we would have needed to go for. I don't even know at that point. Like honestly,
well, you couldn't go for Hathaway because of the
Hathaway was, and so the issue was that we could go for the divas. And that just wasn't something that Erin was going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think Cade would have either. And I think Ryan would have told Cade.
Yeah.
He would have.
And so I was just like, I can't rally this, or else we're going against somebody or a team with likely the majority of the votes, 2 idols, and the knowledge of who we're going for.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's the only way that we get through this is by getting them to draft us in their civil war. And I was just kind of like, this is how I see things going. And I was like, I'm not going to be the glue for Gerstlauer. Like, sorry, jumping ship.
Do you think it would have been beneficial to turn on Erin at this point?
I don't think so, because Erin was my vehicle to get in with the Vacomas.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't flip on Erin without also alienating Katz, Jordyn, Sam, Cade. Like,
yeah, I think you were just in a
yeah.
I think you were just in a situation where you were kind of drawing dead.
It was I needed, and frankly, like from the things that they were telling me, I was like, oh, this is kind of working. Like I have somebody promising that they'd play an idol on me. I have somebody that's like spending 3 hours on call with me and telling me how good we are. And I'm like, okay, well, he's also just doing that with other people in Katz. But I was like, okay, I'm putting in the work. People are like talking game with me and talking about like, how do we move forward? And it was just like, frankly, I don't think that there's a situation where I can ever get maybe 2 to 3 rounds further based off of how things were going at that time. Like I win immunity, it's probably different. Maybe people will flip on Hathaway, that sort of deal. But like, what do I do there? Like I was using my extra vote to try and be like a trust builder, and like that can be what it is. But also at that point, if they were worried about a relationship, do they just flip on Erin and then I've got a bunch of Gerslauers that don't trust each other going into a team with the majority and 2 idols, and now I can't even force rocks.
Yeah. No, you're just in a very tough situation. Did you have any idea it was going to be you before you saw that first vote?
When I saw the first vote, I was like, nope, I'm gone. That's what it is.
Mhm.
Because somebody explicitly said you won't see your name a single time. They made like a big deal about flipping onto Tawni. So it was like made to be a big deal. I was made to be very comfortable.
Mhm.
Like they knew I didn't have an idol because they knew that they had the idol.
Right.
And they knew that Sam had the idol. They knew where all of the advantages were. They could have walked up to me and said, "You're going home." And I mean, I don't expect them to do that, but I was just kind of like
jury management.
Just like tell me what's going on. Like it's cool, but they made like a very big deal about like saving me and then like blindsided me. And I was like, I don't know. I left the game feeling kind of icky, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I was
that
like, there's
happens.
no way that this happened without Sam, without Katz, people who had like promised to save me and play idols on me. And I was like, I'm on the jury. Why are you doing this?
Well, that's something we get to see in the future because we do get you in some capacity for the rest of the game now. We get to see your reactions to what's happening at tribal councils and everything. And we do eventually get you in final tribal councils. So I look forward to seeing that from you, especially when you leave someone, when the first person you vote out in a game for jury is so important. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. How much that Mare Ponderosa, as we term the phrase, dictates how the entire jury is going to be. Like
exactly.
Very friendly juries and bitter juries. Not that I'm a big fan of the term bitter jury, but like in the sense of how people talk about them, a lot of the time they're decided by the first 2 people who go to jury because they're going to set the tone for everyone else who comes there.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I go to jury like with people that I'm rooting for, with people I'm rooting against. And it's not necessarily like based on those tribal lines or who voted for me, who didn't. I think the person that I was the highest on going into jury was probably Jordyn. Because
interesting. You want to just delve into that? Like why?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good call and we were both just kind of like, hey, you know, we're both like mini alumni. It's going to be like, I don't know, it would be cool if we did something. But it was very much kind of like we don't know each other, but like our friends are friends. And so like, let's not kill each other immediately and kind of see where things go. She was very obviously fishing for information. I was very obviously like, please don't kill me. And it was just kind of like, it was a fine call. Like there wasn't any over promising. It was just kind of like hey, maybe we can work on this in the future. We like personally get along just fine. The vibes are okay. Let's just kind of see where we go. And then she voted me out. And I was like, no, that makes sense for Jordyn. Yeah. Like, that's fine. That's fine. You didn't do too much. You didn't do too little. You did just enough. You managed my expectations and you made a game move that was good for you.
Yeah, and that's, I think, something that a lot of people can take into jury and should take into jury is this idea of this is a respect for the game, right? Like sometimes the respect for the game is broken. Sorry, what was that, Benji?
I was like, you don't owe me a higher placement. Like I enjoy being treated like a person, but like you don't owe me doing well in this game. If taking me out is good for you, make that move. I don't care. I'm not bitter. I mean, I'm bitter for some things. I'm bitter for some things. But like, I'm not bitter for that.
No, and I think like game moves are things that you can respect as a juror. Whereas like it's those personal things, right? It is those over promises that are like that leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Like it's when people do build that genuine connection with you and like leverage it against you that it leaves a bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. But alas, we have to say goodbye to you from the game. You're not going to appear in the episodes other than a face at Tribal Council from now on. But is there anything like what's a fun memory of something that happened that we haven't seen?
Oh geez. Honestly, like there were a lot of like really good calls that I had. Like there were a lot of really good personal calls. I think just like my call that I had with Katz in maybe like round 3 and there was something where like the Zoom expired and we just like started a new one and went till that one expired. And it was just like it was very nice getting to know everybody. I feel like I enjoy the comps, like the production team is stellar. Like y'all know I love you. I've played this game twice. So I don't know. I was really excited to kind of like come back and show what I've learned.
Mhm.
And I feel like, being taken out for like being a threat is kind of a badge of honor in
Yeah.
my mind. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I feel like I did what I could given the circumstances. And I don't know. I feel good. It was a good game. I felt like I had a weird hand, but like that's just how it happens. And I had a really good time meeting a whole lot of wonderful people.
Actually, well, that's all we can really ask for any of our players, that they have a good time and they meet some wonderful people. So that brings us to the end of this episode of After the Snuff. But before we go, we do have our DCP tradition. Tommy, if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be?
Oh God. Yeah, I thought about this when I was watching the other episodes. I was thinking of going for the meme and saying funsies because that's the meme that everybody knows. So I was, or chaotic, which is say bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll just go chaotic, I guess. Yeah.
All right, and Benji, same question to you. One word.
Divalicious.
I love it. Well,
Great.
thank you both so much for joining me. It was a delight speaking to each of you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week. We'll be back again next Sunday with another episode of After the Snuff. But before that, there are 2 more episodes of Corkscrew Cove coming your way on Monday and Thursday. So make sure you like the video, click subscribe, ring that bell, and we will see you next time.